Hey there YouTube, Heir of Carthage here, gonna bring you some Rome Total War online gameplay for those of you who are holding me to what I said that I told you I would bring you traditional Total War games on the weekends, so here you go. I am playing as Armenia, and granted there is only going to be one non-Shogun video this weekend, and it is this video, and it's because Shogun was just released, and by gosh, I love that game, and I want to make a ton of videos on it, so deal with it. Though I do know that I have lots of subscribers that subscribe because of Rome Total War, so that's why I'm throwing back to this game. The Poland Lithuania Campaign will be back next weekend. So just please let me go ahead and continue on with the tons of Shogun videos because the game is new. People want to see it, they want to see strategy, they want to see the campaign, they want to see online battles, they want to hear me explain what the game has to offer. So that is why I'm going to produce a lot of those videos, and as you can see I've been getting huge numbers of subscribers and views on the Shogun videos, and so I'm definitely going to continue those as quickly as I can. In fact, there will be a Shimazu campaign video tonight. I know some of you are wanting to see more online battles. I will bring you those on Monday, so be patient with me on that. I'm cranking those videos out as absolutely as fast as I can. I got 7 videos out since Tuesday night though, and that's pretty dang good. You're going to be hard pressed to find commentators who can beat that. So, alright, I am playing as Armenia, as you can see, and you can see me setting up my army earlier. What I have brought is obviously you know, a tough cataphract-based Armenian army, because an Armenian army that's not based on cataphracts, to me, is kind of stupid, because their infantry sucks. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Their infantry sucks. They have no chariot archers, they have no scythe chariots, so you need to make use of some horse archers and cataphracts in order to capitalize on Armenia's strengths. So I have 6 units of cataphracts, with gold upgrades are very near it on some. I have 4 silver legionnaires, and I have 6 units of archers with gold attack, and I have 2 units of horse archers, I think also with gold attack. My opponent is playing as the Scipii Romans, and some aspects of his army are smart, and some aspects of it are kind of foolish in my opinion, and I'll tell you what I think that is. Here he has pretty much fully loaded out archers. He has 6 of them and 1 archer auxilia in the back. He's got this unit of urban cohorts, which he should have brought more of these guys, and some of you might be saying, "Eric, you hate urbans." Well, I'll explain that in a minute. He brought 6 units of these auxilia, which even with some upgrades are absolute crap. And obviously you might be saying, well, he did that because they have spears, Eric. Well, that's true, but I'll explain to you some of the drawbacks on that. So here is the some good units that he brought. Was these 2 units of Praetorian Cav, and once again some of you are probably foaming at the mouth like, Eric, you can't be saying Praetorian Cav are good, you hate them. Okay, let me go ahead and explain. When the Romans play against eastern factions, such as Pontus, let's see, Pontus, Armenia, Parthia, the Seleucids, they suffer, you know, they're going to have a tough fight on their hands, and not because of infantry. None of those factions bring tough infantry. They bring extremely superior cavalry and skirmishing components. And so the Romans are going to be hard-pressed to fight those types of armies, since the Romans only have access to triarii as heavy spear units, and triarii are of limited value, as most of you know. So I am going to move up and start skirmishing. The whole purpose of me bringing horse archers is to just basically absorb fire. I just want to absorb fire with them and my my regular archers. Now, my horse archers run Cantabrian Circle, and sometimes they'll skirmish in that situation, and sometimes they won't. In this particular case, they did not skirmish, and you saw my opponent deal death to my horse archers, and some people might be saying, oh man, Eric, you just lost them. Well, it doesn't matter. They're just there as a distraction anyway. Sometimes horse archers can be used to great damaging effect. In my case, I don't really care. And his cavalry auxilia is just as quick, and since my men didn't skirmish away, they're going to go ahead and knock them out. And I don't really care. I'll do a little bit of chasing them with my cataphracts, but not much, because I'm not going to let my cataphracts get tired. And all that really did was just allow me to get my archers in position with, you know, I say minimal losses. I'm still taking heavy losses. In fact, you can see him shooting at his cav right now. But it's all just a distraction. You all know me. You know that I love distraction tactics. So here I'm gonna start the further distraction with my army, which is my infantry. My infantry absolutely sucks, and it's just here to kind of, like I said, distract. You can see the missiles flying everywhere, all over the field, arrows, javelins. I mean, it's flying everywhere. This is a huge skirmish fight right now. I'm going to go ahead and just march my infantry forward here across the battlefield. And I'm going to use them to back up the enemy archer line, and if my opponent doesn't have his archers in skirmish, then I will attack them and kill them. So either way, my opponent is going to have to answer that. I'm going to move up my cataphracts. I'm going to keep them in groups in order to keep them safe from being singled out. So I'm going to keep them in groups of at least 2. So here they are on this flank, my cataphracts roaming around, threatening the enemy forces here. You can see their javelins flying in. It's really not going to cause any damage to my cataphracts, especially from the front, so I'm not really worried about his javelins. So he can sit there and throw them. I'm going to chase these guys a little bit, but again, I'm not going to let my cataphracts get worn out. That's one mistake a lot of people make, is they let their cataphracts get worn out. Over here, my general unit was able to rout these cavalry auxilia that didn't get away in time. You can see my infantry still making the slow, steady move forward, covering for my archers. And so here they come. My infantry are going to run forward and start hurling javelins to cause all the damage they can, which is going to be minimal. And here's my opponent's urbans firing back with their javelins. So my legionnaires are going to take a beating from these dudes. So there's my javelins coming in. I'm really not going to hardly even damage his urbans. Now, let me explain earlier, I was saying my opponent should have brought more urbans. I'll just be showing you the action while I'm explaining this. And it's because this example right here, actually, check it out. Here's my cataphracts mixed up with these spear units. And you can see that I'm actually pretty much ravaging these guys. And here comes his Praetorian Cav on a countercharge. And then I'm countercharging with more cataphracts into his Praetorian Cav. So even right here with these spear troops, once I pull out the mace, these spear troops can only cause so much damage. I mean, their attack is pretty pitiful. And they're only light spears as opposed to my super heavy cav. So one of the auxiliary units already routed, and look, these guys are already down to half strength. And this is in just a cavalry fight. And so, I mean, the light auxilia just are not tough enough to deal the damage needed to stop cataphracts. You can use them to hold cataphracts while you outflank with cavalry, which is what my opponent should have tried to do here. And then check it out, here comes the rest of my cataphracts up in the rear. And they're gonna be dealing death to these auxilia spearmen. You can see that I'm really not taking a whole lot of losses to these spearmen. In fact, they're getting it way worse than I am. So there goes all the auxilia routing, which is what auxilia troops do. They run away because they suck. So some of you may be saying, but Air, you hate urbans. Yes, I do. I absolutely hate urbans and Praetorian Cav, but against eastern factions, the ones that I mentioned earlier, Pontus, Armenia, Parthia, the Romans probably ought to bring urbans and Praetorian Cav, and that's because it kind of balances out the play between those factions, because the eastern factions have superior skirmishing and cavalry, and so the Romans kind of need to bring the urbans, because the urbans can take a beating like no other unit in Rome Total War, and that beating is going to be coming from arrows, slingers, cataphracts, elephants, who knows what the eastern factions are going to bring, scythe chariots, chariot archers. So, I mean, the Romans definitely need to bring those tougher units to a game against the eastern faction. I see absolutely no dishonor in bringing those types of units to a game like this, and you can see why. It's because my opponent now, although he was thinking semi-smart in bringing spear troops because he knew Armenia was going to come cavalry heavy, it was still a dumb idea because these light spears are just too light, and I think I demonstrated that as you've seen my cataphracts pretty much pwn his entire army. Sorry there, bumped the microphone. And they're going to continue to pwn his army, so you're going to be seeing right here where, look, his spears caught me here from behind. They didn't even kill one of my cataphracts. So this is what I'm talking about. I mean, from behind they have a hard time killing my horses, and from the front they're gonna do even worse. So there I am, shattering the rest of them. But see, check it out. These urbans have taken the pounding of my archers. They've taken the pounding of my cataphracts. They've taken the pounding of my legionnaires and the javelins for my legionnaires. And they just now rout.
Victory lies in your grasp, and there is nothing the enemy can
they
do
just
but
now rout. So that's why I said he should have brought more of them. And he should have brought more Praetorian Cav, because although Praetorian Cav aren't as good as cataphracts, they can hang in there and give infantry troops a chance to help level out the playing field against cataphracts. So good game to my opponent, Falcata. He fought bravely, and he has a cool name. So in any case, hope you enjoyed that battle, and I got one more for you. Alright, here's my second battle that I'm going to bring you. This is actually a Carthage versus Rome battle, and someone asked me a long time ago, they said, "Air, how come you never use these Spanish mercenary troops?" It's because they suck, and typically I don't like to use them in a battle because they're awful. But I wanted to bring you a battle here that will show some semi-historical type strategy, and semi, there is a stressed word in this. I'm playing against the Scipii Romans, which is, of course, a historical matchup, the Romans under the Scipio family versus Hannibal. And my army here, although the units, names and skins may not be historical, the composition of my army is going to demonstrate some historical similarities that took place in some ancient battles. I have a line of skirmishers up front, which is just 2 skirmish units. I have 4 of these Spanish mercenaries, which are very much more representative of what type of Iberian troops you would see. The Iberian infantry in Rome Total War is way lighter than what the typical Spanish unit would have been like in Hannibal's army. They did have light Iberian infantry, kind of like those guys, but there was also a heavier infantry, and these right here represent those. They are javelin armed. They have a scutum shield, and armed with a falcata sword. So my Sacred Band pikes here, it would be better if I used pointy, but pointy are represented so weak in this game that they're hard to use. So right here we're going to say that my Sacred Band represents the heavy African spear troops that Hannibal would have had access to. So these would have been heavy Libyan spears. And we're going to say that's what my Sacred Band represents. Back here, my Sacred Band cavalry and my Spanish cav here, this Iberian cav, is going to represent the Carthaginian cav, and the Sacred Band will represent my Punic citizens and officers, whereas the Spanish cav is going to represent, the mercenary type cav that Carthage had access to. I did not bring any Numidian cavalry, which would have also been present in one of Hannibal's army. So yeah, in any case, my strategy is a rush army. I'm going to rush these skirmishers forward to absorb any Roman pillar fire. My opponent makes the enormous mistake of not turning on his pillar, and so I'm going to run my Spanish mercenaries forward and exchange some javelins at the same time my skirmishers are. These skirmishers are going to cause little, if any, damage. They're just there to absorb Pilla. I'm using a strategy that is similar to what Hannibal used at Cannae, obviously a different battleground, and different troops, kinda, so it's not going to be exactly the same. I'm using a weak center, which is my Spanish mercenary center, and I'm going to push really hard on the flanks with my African spear troops, which were his heavy veteran troops, his higher quality troops. So here's some opposing Murmillo gladiators, and these guys are going to get absolutely chopped down by my Sacred Band. And then here my Sacred Band are pushing on the flanks of these Roman legionnaires. And then on the other side I'm doing the same thing. You can see my Sacred Band pushing on the flanks of these heavy Roman legions. Now of course the Roman legions of this time would have been Primarian legions, but just like a lot of Carthage's troops, the Primarian Roman troops are represented, in my opinion, very poorly on Rome Total War. So that's part of the reason. Now, much as in the fashion in real life, you can see here a giant pile of dead Roman cavalry, because the Carthaginian cavalry pwned the Roman cavalry time and time and time again, except for at the Battle of Zama. That is pretty much the only notable exception. And much like in real life, the Romans had more infantry in this battle, and the Carthaginians had the cavalry edge. So that's also pretty well represented, again with the exception of the Battle of Zama. And again, I know these troops aren't the historical units that were present in those battles, but it kind of represents itself. So you can see my weak center is holding, and it's mainly because the flanks of the Romans are being pushed hard by my heavy infantry. And in fact, you're going to see these guys right here wavering, and once my Sacred Band starts to get up here on the rear, they go ahead and rout. So now I'm going to pull a typical Carthaginian move here and start wrapping up my opponent's flank. And there goes another Roman legionary eagle. That will become a fine prize for my men. Here's the Romans trapped and fighting to the death. My Spanish mercenaries stabbing them mercilessly in the back, as the Roman scum deserve. And then I'm going to just continue to wrap up hard on the flank. You can see me tossing Urbans here in the background. His line of Urbans is trying to protect, but my Carthaginian cavalry is just going to pierce right through that Roman line, and then just come marching right on in here to finish the entire envelopment. So my opponent, number one, he made a few mistakes. He didn't upgrade his troops, but facing off against the kind of troops I brought, this was completely a fair fight, other than in the cavalry department, which shouldn't be a fair fight for the Romans. If you want to be historical, the Romans ought to lose to pretty much everybody when it comes to cavalry. The Romans sucked with cavalry until they got into later periods after they had learned the lessons from the Macedonians, from the eastern factions, from the Carthaginians. They finally got good at cavalry, but not until a long time later. So in the time period that you see represented in Rome Total War, the Romans ought to pretty much always lose the cavalry fight. However, their heavy infantry would help make up for it. So I don't know why the Primarian troops got represented so terrible, when in fact they were actually extremely powerful in the ancient world. So there's the remaining Romans being trodden under the feet of my sacred band, and to use a word I recently used on my Shimazu campaign, they die an ignominious death. So I hope you enjoyed that. Good game to my opponent. I hope you enjoyed the little bit of commentary on maybe some historicity there and my use of some Spanish troops along with the Carthaginian army. Heir of Carthage, signing off for now.